10 voices, 10 moments where what they said on wax, in interviews, or just by living as real as they rapped, changed the course of their lives forever. And not in the way a hit record does, in the permanent way. You know some of these names, you've heard some of these stories, but today we're going deeper than the headlines. Because behind every single one of these tragedies, there's a moment where somebody said something they couldn't unsay. And the world made sure they didn't get another chance. Stay with me. Number 10, Scott LaRock. Scott LaRock wasn't just a DJ. He was a licensed social worker. During the day, he was at the Franklin Men's Shelter in the Bronx, counseling men in crisis. That wasn't a side hustle, that was his calling. But at night, with a homeless teenager named Lawrence Parker, who you know as KRS-One, he was building something that had never existed in hip-hop before, something that spoke too loudly and too honestly for the streets to stay quiet around it. Criminal Minded dropped in 1987 on B-Boy Records, and from the jump, BDP wasn't rapping about fantasy. They were rapping about the actual Bronx. Real streets, real politics, real consequences. I'd rather talk to a woman 'cause I'm honest, so steady. So here we go. Music that made people uncomfortable in the way real things always do. August 27, 1987, D-Nice, Scott's young protege, basically a kid from the crew, had gotten into a situation in the South Bronx. Some men were upset, a beef over a girl. D-Nice called Scott, and Scott, who by training was literally meant to de-escalate conflict, drove to the High Bridge projects to calm things down. Here's the part that still hits me. The exact same day he was killed, BDP had just signed a deal with Sleeping Bag Records. The next chapter was literally beginning, and then someone from a nearby building opened fire on the Jeep they were riding in. Scott was shot in the head. He was driven to Lincoln Hospital. He never came home. He was 25 years old, and what his death set in motion, KRS-One's grief became stop the violence, became self-destruction. A song featuring nearly every major MC in New York that hit #1 on the Hot Rap Singles chart and raised money for the National Urban League. Scott LaRock never got to see what he started, but what he started is still moving 37 years later. I'd rather talk to a woman 'cause I'm honest, so steady. So here we go. Coming in at number 9, a name from Queens, and if you know the Lost Boys catalog, this one still stings. Number 9, Freaky Ta. If you were really in hip-hop in the mid-90s, and I mean actually in it, not adjacent to it, you know what Lost Boys meant. Music Makes Me High, Renee, Me and My Crazy World, they came out of Jamaica, Queens. And they had something that very few rap groups actually have. Chemistry that sounds like real love, not performance, not marketing. Real love for each other, for their city, for the music. Now I'm in love with these 2 chicks. I don't know which one to pick. My feelings from them both. Freaky Ta, born Raymond Rogers, was the hype man, the energy, the one who made the room come alive. And in a group built on street authenticity, he was the heartbeat, not the one rapping the bars, but the one keeping it connected to where they actually came from. That's cool, no doubt. That's why that rap. Here's what the mainstream story always glosses over. Lost Boys didn't sanitize Jamaica, Queens for a broader audience. They rapped about the streets as they were, the codes, the realities, the unwritten rules of the block. And in that world, the line between the art and the actual street is sometimes no line at all. You make music honest enough, and the music becomes evidence. Not in a courtroom, in the streets. March 28, 2000. After a birthday party at a hotel in Queens, Freaky Tah was shot outside. He was 31 years old. The alleged shooter, Kelvin Rodriguez, was someone from inside the world they'd lived and documented. Not a stranger, not random, someone connected to the exact circles they'd been rapping about. And the thing I keep sitting with is this. Freaky Tah wasn't even the one holding the mic. He was in the background holding down the spirit of the crew. Sometimes the people who get caught in the crossfire of speaking too loud aren't the ones doing the speaking. They're just standing close enough to the voice. That's a different kind of loss. And if you remember exactly where you were when you found out, you already know what I mean. The Lost Boys never sounded the same after. Queens was never the same after. Real talk. Only 9% of you watching this are actually subscribed. That hurts a little, not gonna lie. We spend hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life because this music deserves to be remembered. And you're here because you care about that too. So if these videos mean something to you, if you've ever said, damn, I didn't know that, or felt something while watching, just hit subscribe. It's free, takes 2 seconds, and it tells YouTube to show this to more people who love this music like we do. Let's build this together. All right, back to the story. Number 8, Stretch, Randy Walker. I need you to hold 2 dates in your head at the same time. November 30th, 1994, November 30th, 1995. Same date, 1 year apart, almost to the minute. And a man named Randy Walker, known to the culture as Stretch, is the thread connecting both. November 30th, 1994. Stretch was at Quad Recording Studios in Times Square with Tupac Shakur. They were real brothers. Stretch had been on Tupac's first album on the Above the Rim soundtrack, in his corner from the Digital Underground days all the way through Thug Life. And that night, 3 men robbed Tupac's in the lobby of that studio and shot him 5 times. Stretch, who was there, who was literally the biggest man in the room, walked out untouched, not a scratch. Tupac survived. And then, from prison, he started talking. He questioned publicly why Stretch never fought. He implied in a Vibe interview what he was really thinking. And on Against All Odds from Machiavelli, which he recorded before Stretch died, he put it on wax. That nigga that was down for me, rest his head, switch sides. Guess his new friends wanted him dead. He recorded that track before November 30th, 1995. Think about that for a second. November 30th, 1995. Stretch had just finished a late recording session with Nas producing tracks for what would become It Was Written. He dropped his brother off at home in Queens Village. Then on 112th Avenue, a black car pulled up alongside him and opened fire. 4 shots. He crashed his minivan. He was 27 years old. The NYPD detective who investigated told reporters it happened 1 year and about 5 minutes from the Quad Studio shooting. Those were his exact words. I won't tell you I know who or why. Nobody does on the record. But a man who was present at the most politically charged moment in mid-90s hip-hop shot dead exactly 1 year and 5 minutes later. The streets don't believe in coincidence that precise, and honestly, neither do I. Number 7, Big L. Lamont Coleman from Harlem. And I want you to really understand what we lost when we lost him, because if you're a bars person, if you genuinely love what a great MC can do with 16 bars, Big L was operating on a level that almost nobody in the history of this art form has ever touched.
A chick 10 cents to put cheese on a Whopper. They wanna know why I'm so.
Lifestyles of The Poor and Dangerous came out in 1995 on Columbia, and the label had absolutely no idea what to do with it. They signed the talent and fumbled the rollout, the oldest story in the business, but L kept working.
You get a wax slut. If you got dough, you get a hole with a.
He was building flamboyant entertainment. He was the nucleus of DITC, a crew so lyrically dangerous, they still give battle rappers nightmares today. And in 1995, he did a freestyle alongside a young Jay-Z on a Stretch Armstrong and Bobito Garcia radio session that people still debate whether L outshined the man who would become one of the greatest ever. I know which side I'm on. But here's what made Big L more than just a lyricist. He rapped about Harlem with such specificity, street names, real situations, real people, that his music functioned almost like journalism. It wasn't abstraction, it was documentation. And in the world he was documenting, the people in those stories weren't characters, they were neighbors. Still out there, February 15th, 1999, 139th Street and Lenox Avenue in Harlem, he was shot 9 times. He was 24 years old. The investigation pointed towards someone who knew him, someone from the same neighborhood he'd spent his entire career documenting. The case never produced a conviction. And here's what I can't shake. He had a second album ready. He just restarted Flamboyant Entertainment. He was in conversations with Raucous Records, the label that was about to change independent hip-hop forever.
And I hate a money-hungry girl, aka gold digger. It ain't even fun.
The greatest chapter of his career hadn't even started yet. We never got it. If you've ever tried to explain Big L to somebody who wasn't there, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
No matter how strong you rap, you only knock boots when you got loot in your own.
Number 6, Jam Master Jay. Here's something you might not fully consider when you think about Jam Master Jay by 2002. He wasn't just Run-D.M.C's DJ anymore. He had founded JMJ Records.
DMC and Jam Master Jay.
He was running 24/7 recording studio in Hollis, Queens, the neighborhood that built them and nurturing a new generation of artists. He'd played a role in helping a young 50 Cent get early exposure to the industry, and he moved through multiple worlds simultaneously. The legacy world of hip-hop royalty, the music business, and the streets of Hollis, where he came from and stayed connected to his entire life. October 30th, 2002. Someone walked into that studio and shot Jason Mizell in the head. And for almost 18 years, the case sat officially cold. One of the founding architects of hip-hop, the man whose turntablism on Rockbox changed what DJ culture could be, who was on Walk This Way when hip-hop cracked mainstream America, opened shot in his own studio in front of witnesses. And for nearly 2 decades, nobody talked. In 2020, 2 men were finally indicted, Ronald Washington and Carl Jordan Jr. The alleged motive, a drug deal, money owed, business gone wrong. And here's a detail that connects 2 events. On this list, Ronald Washington had previously been named by federal prosecutors as a suspect in the murder of Randy Stretch Walker back in 1995. The same Ronald Washington. Jason Mizell moved in a world where what you knew was just as dangerous as what you said. He built his career on realness. His group put their actual Queen's address in their lyrics.
DMC and Jam Master Jay.
And the people who were in that room when he was killed, most of them stayed quiet for the better part of 2 decades. That level of silence doesn't happen when there's nothing to protect. whether it was something he said, something he knew, or simply the life he lived as authentically as his music. Jason Mizell never made it home from his own studio, and that's where the story should end. But this list goes deeper. Number 5, Soulja Slim.
So you say you love me in a married way. Yeah, okay, I've been in several times.
New Orleans, early 2000s. If you know this city's rap scene, really know it. Not just the surface then, you know Soulja Slim wasn't performing for anybody.
So now it's back doing jail time all over again.
James Tapp Jr. from the Magnolia Projects rapped like a man who'd already made peace with how things might end. He'd been shot before the records. He'd done time before the fame. When that's your baseline, you stop filtering. You stop calculating what's safe to say.
Either you love me or you love me not. I'ma be me. I'm known for me.
He feuded publicly, spoke openly about things most rappers handle quietly and off record. His music was a diary written in real time, street politics, real situations, rapped just thin enough in verse to give him some cover.
I'ma be me. I'm known for making promises that I can't keep in break.
But in New Orleans, in those circles, the people in those situations didn't need a lyric sheet to understand what he was saying. And understanding exactly who said what and to who had immediate consequences in those streets. No Limit Records had built an empire putting Louisiana on the map.
Used to give 'em back, so I'm rolling like that. What I really love is gone now.
But Soulja Slim was raw in a way that even No Limit's machine couldn't always fully contain. He was that unfiltered. And in a world where the line between the song and the situation is already thin, unfiltered is a dangerous place to live.
Now, how you gonna prove it? Being stupid, you done lost out. Now it's next to the
Thanksgiving night, November 26, 2003. He was on his mother's porch in New Orleans, shot multiple times. He was 26 years old. He came home for the holiday. This was targeted. Someone knew where he would be. Someone had been keeping track.
the streets made it, and I run 24/7, 365 days.
His music was gaining its widest recognition in those final months, the industry finally catching up to what the streets had known for years, but he wasn't here to receive any of it. New Orleans mourned in a way that people outside Louisiana couldn't fully measure, because Soulja Slim was theirs.
If I got a beach and I don't need you, let the next man do it. You done ran me away from you.
The real version, the version that didn't adjust for the cameras. And speaking that truth in that world without enough cover, it cost him everything.
On the player, the world revolves around game, that's why I take it there. Can't forget
Number 4, Mac Dre.
Like an ATM card. I'm in the building and I'm feeling myself.
The FBI opened a file on Mac Dre before he had a major album. Andre Hicks from Vallejo, California, was under federal surveillance because the government considered his crew the Romper Room Gang, a criminal organization.
I'm out of this world, not your run of the millin'. My name is Furrow, I'm the owner of the...
And Mac Dre, who was rapping about all of it with the kind of specific, unapologetic detail that made federal agents take notes, became a target before he became a legend. He was convicted on conspiracy charge the feds tied to bank robberies connected to his crew, sentenced to 5 years.
And if you still want to kick it, we can go get a room. It won't cost you much, I'm a good buy.
And while he was incarcerated, while the government had him locked up specifically because of who he was and what he represented, he recorded music over the phone, called into recording sessions from inside prison. That's not just dedication to the craft, that's defiance.
I'm feeling myself. I'm in the building and I'm feeling myself.
And that's a man telling the people who locked him up, you can have my body, but you will not have my voice. He came home and built something that outlasted anything they tried to take from him. By the early 2000s, he wasn't just a Bay Area rapper. He was the Bay Area.
Running from the cop car, I drop bars on slaps that knock hard, and I charge for the...
Feeling Myself, the hyphy movement, the sideshows, the ghost riding, the entirely autonomous Bay energy that owed nothing to New York, nothing to LA. He built Thiz Entertainment himself so he could say exactly what he wanted without a label in the middle of the conversation.
I'm feeling myself.
Independent, unfiltered, Vallejo to the world. November 1st, 2004, he performed in Kansas City. After the show, riding back to the hotel in a van, a car pulled alongside and opened fire. Mac Dre was shot and killed.
We can catch the liquor store before 2. We can hit my nigga, go get some shrooms.
He was 34 years old. The case has never been solved. Here's what doesn't sit right with me. The federal government surveilled this man for years, considered him dangerous enough to put under active investigation, to prosecute, to imprison. And then when he's shot and killed in a city far from home, nobody's ever charged. The government was watching him for a decade. When he actually needed protection, silence. Make of that what you will. Number 3, Pimp C. Chad Butler was never afraid of the microphone, not once in his career. As one half of UGK, alongside Run-D, he helped drag Southern hip-hop from the margins to the center of American music, and he did it entirely on his own terms. Which meant he was never, not for a single interview, going to play the industry game the way the industry wanted it played. By 2007, he had become the most controversial interview subject in rap. His Ozone magazine sit-down that year became infamous. He called out artists directly, spoke on what he felt was widespread fraud in Southern rap's new commercial wave, talked about studio thugs and fake rappers by name, spoke about the South being miscredited for its own innovations. He told anyone who would print it. Crunk came from 3-6 Mafia, Trill came from UGK, and the mainstream was acting like it didn't. He wasn't asking for credit quietly. He was demanding it loudly, in print, on the radio, with his full name on it. And understand the timing here. This 2007 UGK's Underground Kings album debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200. After 15 years of being commercially undervalued, International Players Anthem featuring Outkast was everywhere. This was supposed to be the vindication, the victory lap. The moment when everything they'd built finally got its proper due. December 4th, 2007, found dead in his room at the Mondrian Hotel in West Hollywood. His wife called the hotel because she hadn't heard from him. Security found him in bed. The coroner ruled it accidental promethazine with codeine syrup, combined with a sleep apnea condition that had apparently gone undiagnosed. No foul play was officially determined. I want to be clear about that. But this was a man who had just spent months publicly agitating against powerful people in the music industry, by name, in print, and who was found dead in a hotel room at the exact moment his career was reaching its highest point. Whether it was precisely what the coroner said or whether there's more to understand, the hip-hop community has never fully processed the weight of that timing. N.W.A. lost his brother. The South lost its most honest, most uncompromising voice, and the industry kept moving like it was just another. Number 2, the Notorious B.I.G. By early 1997, Christopher Wallace was trying to step back from the center of it. He'd said it publicly in interviews that he wanted out of the East-West storm that had been consuming hip-hop for 2 straight years. He talked openly about wanting peace, about looking toward what came next, and in some circles publicly declaring that you want out creates its own kind of vulnerability because it tells people that the armor's coming off.
First things first, I pop freaks all the honeys, dummies, playboys.
Life After Death was already done, a double album sitting in the can, some of the greatest rap music ever recorded, ready to go. He had plans past the album. He was 24 years old and talking about building something that outlasted the moment he was in.
I got that good love, girl, you didn't know.
And those plans had him in Los Angeles in March 1997 for the Soul Train Music Awards, March 9th, 1997. After the Vibe Party at the Peterson Automotive Museum, he was in his Suburban on Wilshire Boulevard at 12:45 in the morning.
Unless it smells like sanitation, garbage, I turn like doorknobs.
A dark Chevrolet Impala pulled alongside and opened fire. Christopher Wallace, Biggie, B.I.G. Frank White was shot 4 times. He was pronounced dead at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. The case has never been officially solved. More than 25 years later, nothing. And yet there are books, documentaries, retired LAPD officers who've spoken on record about what they believe believe they know, investigative journalists who've spent entire careers pulling on threads from that night. The theories involve institutional corruption, involvement at levels that go well beyond a street beef.
Girls pee-pee when they see me, Navajos creep me in they teepee as I lay.
If you've read Randall Sullivan's Labyrinth, a book built on a decade of investigative reporting, you know that unsolved doesn't always mean unknown. Sometimes it means someone decided it should stay quiet. Life After Death dropped 18 days after he was killed.
Real, ask Puff Dad D. You ringing bells with bags from Chanel, baby.
Certified Diamond, the greatest posthumous album in rap history. And the man who made it, who had just said publicly that he was ready to step away from the storm, never made it home. He had everything to say, and not enough time to say it.
Heartthrob never, black and ugly as ever. However, I stay Gucci down to the...
If you were alive when this happened, if you remember exactly where you were when the news broke, you already know who's sitting at number one. Number one, Tupac Shakur. Here's the thing people miss about Tupac when they focus only on the Biggie beef or the East-West narrative.
South Central LA can't get no stranger, full of drama like a soap opera.
The actual thing that made Tupac dangerous, not just to street enemies, not just to death row, not just to bad boy, but to the broader political infrastructure that had been monitoring hip-hop as a national security concern since the late 80s, wasn't the beef. It was the specificity. It was the fact that Tupac didn't speak in metaphors. He pointed with names, with dates, with precision. He was simultaneously making music that destabilized death row from the inside while calling out bad boy from the outside.
On the curb, watching the ghetto bird helicopters, I observed so many homies getting...
He spoke in interviews about the industry using black artists as products, about the legal system targeting him specifically, and he talked more than once about the organized suppression of black voices, not as conspiracy theory, as lived experience. Here's the layer most people don't go to. Tupac had read the COINTELPRO files. He talked about it. His mother, Afeni Shakur, had been a defendant in the Panther 21 trial, a Black Panther organizer who beat her charges while pregnant with Tupac.
It's the city of angels in constant danger.
This was an abstract history to him. He watched what organized suppression of powerful black voices looked like from inside the crib he was raised in, and then he rapped about it from inside the biggest spotlight hip-hop had ever created. That combination, that knowledge level, that platform, that specificity made him something beyond just a rap conflict. It made him a problem for people far outside the music industry. September 7th, 1996, Las Vegas. Mike Tyson versus Bruce Seldon at the MGM Grand. Tupac was there with Suge Knight. After the fight, a white BMW pulled alongside and opened fire. Tupac was shot 4 times. He died 6 days later, September 13th, 1996. He was 25 years old. In September 2023, 27 years later, Dwayne Keffy D. Davis was indicted for the murder, allegedly in the car when the shots were fired. But the full picture of who made the call, who planned it, and whether this extended beyond a street conflict into something more organized, that investigation is still open, still complicated, still pulling on threads that connect to people with significant resources and significant reasons to keep things quiet. Because when you say as much as Tupac said with as much precision, to as large an audience, the list of people who might benefit from your silence gets very, very long. 5 studio albums before he turned 26. And we've spent nearly 30 years still trying to understand what the world lost when it lost him. That's not nostalgia. That's the measure of a voice that was truly irreplaceable.
Better learn about the dress code, B's and C's, all of